I heard this was one of Rob's favorites.
It is one of Rob's.
One.
Absolutely.
One.
That's okay. That was just a burp, a hiccup.
Rob and I worked together with a handful of you at the Department of General Services back in the early part of the 2000s, and we discovered quickly after working on a project together that we had a common love of bicycle riding. Bend, Oregon was our favorite place to go, along with Bill and Sarah and Sue, who was here somewhere. I can't pinpoint everybody, but there were some really good times that were had on the mountain bikes and in the pubs in Bend, of course. There's a recurring theme here, if you guys aren't picking up on that. And the truth is that I don't think Rob drank at all before he met me. So,
Oh, no.
well, maybe he just did that for my benefit. I don't know. Maybe he said that. But anyway, we did enjoy some really good times together, and we had some great discussions about a lot of different things. I can't think of a subject that was left untouched. We had a mutual loathing of people who, well, maybe I won't go into politics right here because I don't know, but those of you who know Rob may have an idea what I was about to just say. But that being said, he was also just a great guy. You know, he never let a day go that we were together without. I remember I would ask him every time we got together how Marcia and Justin were, and with Justin, he said, "That's a good-for-nothing kid." No, I'm just kidding. I swear to you, he was always, his eyes would light up every time that he would talk about Justin. He was so proud of his family that it was so heartwarming. And I'm trying not to break up here because this is the hard part for me. My wife of 3 years and I recently, 3 years ago, we got married. And you know, you go through the whole rigmarole about, well, who's going to perform the ceremony and so on and so forth. And my mom convinced me that I should ask a friend to do it. And so to make a long story short, I had Rob, I coaxed him into getting an internet certification to perform my wedding. And he didn't require a whole lot of coaxing, I guess, but he pulled off a flawless ceremony. You would, any of you that were there know that you would have thought that he was doing this for a living for the last 50 or 60 years. You know, there's so many stories, bike riding, drinking beer at the Rubicon or at Deschutes, or did I talk about drinking beer? You know, I don't know, there's so many things I can say, but I'm going to shut up now, and if there's other people that would like to say something, I really encourage you to come up and share your stories. But I just want to raise my glass to Rob.
Here, here. Here, here to Rob. I'm going to be an immediate counterpoint to Tim. My name is Frank, and I was Rob's token Republican friend. Rob and I met a long time ago when I was running the Senate Republican caucus. And needless to say, we had some very interesting conversations. The one thing I can say about Rob and I is that we truly loved each other. And Rob and Marcia have been a part of my life for a long time. And we've been through a lot, ups and downs, and helped each other. And I can't believe this guy standing over here who I used to put on my knee. I remember the parties that they would have at their house at East Stack, and at that point in his life, Robb was not a microbrewery aficionado. But one of the things I used to love to do to piss him off was to show up with a couple of 6-packs of Coors. As Marshall will remember. And he would just look at me and shake his head, put his arm around me, and we'd sit down and talk. So there are a lot of memories that I have of Robb and Marcia and Justin, and I will always have them. And he'll always be in here.
I was a reporter at the Press Democrat, and Robb was working for one of the radio stations in the late 70s. There's a lot of activities that I remember doing with Robb. Playing golf on Thanksgiving, trip to Utah to ride mountain bikes, playing guitar. But it isn't the activities that I remember about Robb so much as the conversation. He was simply one of the most interesting conversationalists that you're ever going to run into. Witty and insightful, and just a delight to exchange ideas with. And more than anything else, I remember the laughter, just laughing. And last couple of years, I haven't seen Robb as much as I had before, maybe 3 or 4 times a year. And so right now, having not seen him for a couple of months, it's very hard for me to accept that he's gone. And so I'm not going to accept that, and I'm just going to keep in my mind that I need to call him, and I'm going to do that soon. And you know what, buddy? We'll see you soon.
And we became friends, and later we became closer friends because we rode constantly. I was out of work for about 1.5 years, and it was a really tough time for me. One of the things I looked forward to was not only riding with Robb and the conversation, the great conversation, but also Robb for me became almost a sort of a therapist. He was always giving me a positive spin on things and really helped me through a tough time. I think that I later, when he was training for Eppies, and I really pushed him pretty hard, I think I returned the favor because the last Eppies he raced in, he had his fastest time ever. So I like to think that our relationship was reciprocal. Really just a great guy, somebody that I will think about daily for the rest of my life. And I feel robbed, and I hate to use that pun flippantly, but Robb was a witty guy, and I think he would actually enjoy that.
That would not be lost on him.
That would not be lost on him. But yeah, just really tough to lose such a great guy. I know that a number of people here would agree.
I can't possibly go back on all the memories that many of you must have of Robb, but in the short period that I did know him, I think I got the gist of who he is and what he is and why everybody's here. And I think we all possibly came here today to think that Robb might be here. And I think in many ways he is, and that's why we're here. And so the gentleman that just spoke, I think he's right. You know, I think that we have an unfinished communication, each of us, with Robb, and I plan to, in some way, try to do that communication as well. And I think it's great that everybody showed up today, and I wish I knew him longer. He's just an incredible guy.
But one small story that I'll share with you was sort of a serendipity. And I was driving home after work one day and saw a beautiful rainbow. I took N Street instead of Folsom Boulevard, and I was driving what would have been past the bike store that Robb worked at. I didn't know he was working that day, and I parked the car and jumped out with my camera and just started snapping away at a rainbow. And I hear somebody behind me saying, "Adam." what are you doing? And completely oblivious to the surroundings around me. And there was Robb with Buddy. So I'd like to think that that was sort of meant to be. Buddy proceeded to go and poop on somebody's lawn, and Robb said, "We're moving this way. We're going away from the." But like you said about the laughter, I'll always remember his smile, and I am poor for having lost him, and I'm sure that we all are. But I send my thoughts to his family.
And my name is Bill Cunningham, and my wife Sarah and I are the part of the Oregon Bend contingent. So we're here to represent Robb in his other half. We met Robb over 10 years ago, mountain biking, and took him many times to various places, both local and distant. And the one little story I'd like to share with you about Robb, and many of you who know him intimately know this is the way Robb's whole life kind of worked, is in probably 50 car trips in various cars. Every trip was finished with an effort to find Robb's stuff. No, come on, you know this is true. One trip it was car keys, house keys, cell phone, wallet, camera, and water bottle. Now, how can you lose that much stuff in 200 miles of driving? And it got to the point where finally Sarah came up with this great idea. And again, this is the way you deal with Robb. The Robb bag. Now the Robb bag was a mesh bag that hung on the back of the driver's headrest. And it meant that when we stopped Robb, okay Robb, we're getting in the car. Robb, take everything out of every pocket you own and put it in the bag. Now at the end of the trip, it then meant we could drop Robb off at the house or at his car in less than an hour. And I mean, this got so bad at times we would be places like Bend going mountain biking where, Robb, where's your cell phone? Well, I don't know. Okay, we'll narrow it down. It's in the car. Good. Robb, do you know what your cell phone number is? Well, no. We can't even call his phone to figure out where it is. The good news is the new programmable phones, you'd hit dial Robb, and you'd okay, it's ringing somewhere in the car. And you spend the next half hour finding the phone in the car. That was Robb. I mean, we spent most of our time with Robb looking for Robb's stuff. That also meant that we got to enjoy Robb for all the other reasons that we were with Robb. He was a world-class bicycling companion, as many of you know, and he will be missed. But if you always think about it, hit speed dial for Robb Deignan, and he might pick up.
My dad and Robb coached our team, and I was a husky kid playing soccer, and Justin and I, the first year that we actually played soccer together, our team was terrible. And my dad and Robb had nicknamed our team the Mighty Ducks because we never won. And I think in 15 games, you know, we won like 4 games, and Robb was, you know, he would try to get to me. He's like, Gray, you know, if you get down the field a little faster, you know, you can make this happen. You know, if you do this a little faster, you can do this. And I remember the one day there was this pivotal turning point where I think Robb watched me. He was silent the whole game, and he said to me, Gray, if you score a goal, I'm buying you pizza. And so, like I said, we won 4 games. And 3 out of the 4 games we won are the times he offered me pizza. So when I was thinking back, when I think of Robb, I think of that wit. And years later, you know, I went to college and I didn't see Robb very often. And when I came back, I told him I was thinking about going to Chico State. I don't know if it was a trend with Robb, but he had said to me, he said, you know, I love Sierra Nevada. He says, there's a brewery in Sierra Nevada in Chico. And he said, if nothing else, you should go to school there for that. And it always made me laugh. And it took me 6 years to get out of Chico, and I think part of it was for, Sierra Nevada. but I loved Robb, and I love Justin, I love Marcia. He will be missed, and Justin years ago was there for me. My dad died when I was 19, and one of the things that I took from that was when my dad died, I remember thinking the best part of my dad is alive, and everyone that I see in the group. So I offer that up to all of you to let the best parts of Robb live in your hearts.
And Robbie and Ricky and I, we were inseparable. We were together almost every weekend at my house or his house, and on holidays you could count on it. And we also drank a few beers together on occasion. But I can testify that Robb had no problem with Coors when he was a young man. But I also must say I like his taste in beer today. He was a wonderful guy. He was Rick and I, we were kind of the academically challenged two in the family. Robb was the smart one. I remember one time I was just starting college at College of San Mateo, and I had my private pilot's license, and I was so proud of that, and I wanted to impress Robb. So I called him up and I said, come on, Robbie, come on down, we're going to go for an airplane ride. So he came down and we hopped in the airplane and we went over San Francisco, and I thought I was just so cool taking my bright cousin for a ride. And then he says to me, he says, Mikey, tell me something. In retrospect, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And I said, no, what the hell does that mean in retrospect? I had no idea what that meant. So, but I remember, when I got home, I got my dictionary out and I looked it up just to find out. He was a very bright man, and he had a wonderful sense of humor. I'll miss him.
I'm usually the guy behind the camera, and there's one segment here that no one's talked about is in 1981 he was a reporter at Channel 40, so I've known Robb for probably about 30 years, and it was a real tight group of us, and he was always such a great guy. And after I saw him, I didn't really socialize with him, but I would see Robb like every couple years, and one time actually that you were telling the camera story. I was shooting a demonstration at the Capitol with my camera, the goodness guy shot, and who walks behind me? Robb Deignan, and it's like, I haven't seen Robb in 2 years. I go for 2 years without seeing him, and it just was like seeing just an old friend again. And last time I saw him, he had laid off from the state, and I think he spent the last couple of years really having a really good retirement, so I feel really good about that. And I still walk around the Capitol, and I swear I'm going to see him, because I've seen him kind of on and off for so many years, and like somebody else said a little while ago, is I'll see him sometime soon. So, but anyway, great guy, and I love him. Thanks.
Yeah. And I worked with Robb in the legislature for actually 2 years, but I was mostly in the Assembly and Robb was mostly in the Senate, but we did work together for 2 years when Don Parada was the pro tem. We had two offices in the back right next to each other, and of course Robb had the office with all the pictures and the cycling gear, and I had one with about a 7-inch television with a little thing where I could yell through the thing and tell him what was on television, or he could tell me what was going on. And the great thing about him was that, as somebody referenced earlier, how he really understood how absurd things that we did in the legislature or do, and how he would comment on them. And even today, as we would go through, I thought the other day when we found one of our legislators accidentally walked out of the store without paying for something. My first thought was, what would Robb say? Could you imagine? Because he was, how he would say it and what he would say with a very few words, even over an email, it would be tremendous. But I wanted to tell you a quick story about a great gift he gave me. He would go and cover, they'd say, Robb, we need to have you cover a press conference across the street, and I think the pro tem or somebody was having something, and they had one on something about autism, and they had a movie star that was coming to talk about this program. So we hear, I don't know who it is, he doesn't either, he goes and covers it. So when he gets over there, he realizes who this guy is, and they do the thing, and afterwards he says to the guy, he says, hey, he goes, I have a friend of mine who really liked in this movie, can you do this? And the guy's, yeah, okay, and the guy did it. So I come back and he has it playing, and I go, wow, that really sounds like, the guy goes, it is. And who it is, we didn't know the name at that time, is Gary Cole, who's the actor in Office Space. Does everybody know Office Space? So Rob went up to the guy and said, hey, I have this friend Tim, he really likes you. Can you, and he says the guy gets in character, and he goes, and I have it today still. Yeah, hi Tim, I'm gonna have to ask you to come in on Saturday. So he convinced, I mean, most people wouldn't even ask the guy. He asked the guy to do it, and I come back, and you think people like, wow, where did you get that? I said, it was my friend Rob, you know, he took care of me. So that was quite and I still have it, and you know, I'll try and find a way to get it up somewhere on Facebook or someplace. But anyway, great guy, great times, and he always spoke really highly of course, all of his friends and his family, and you know, it's a pleasure to be here today, and you know, I think that you know, he'd have liked to have been here. I really do, and it would have been a great party. He is here. He is here in a lot of ways. You're right. So thank you.
And he was absolutely original in a town of folks that sometimes can be a little less than authentic or a little bit out there. He was always the same to everybody. He treated everyone from the pro tem to the office intern with the same respect and integrity and courtesy. He was a great guy. On the Tuesday before he went on that 100-mile bike ride, Tim Reardon and I met Rob for a beer at Rubicon. And I mean, I've thought about that meeting since quite a bit, and I think I was very lucky to have spent that last time with Rob that week. And it meant a lot to me, and Rob meant a lot to me, and I'm going to miss him.
You know, I met Rob in I think it was around 95 for PACSAT. Corporations would pay us to do stories that we put out there so that the news people would run it. And poor Rob would be the reporter and I'd be the videographer, and you know, I could almost time it. Within 5 or 10 minutes of starting, Rob would come over and go, why are we here, Pat? There's no story here. And then he'd cut it down to, where's the hook? Where's the hook? There's no hook. But, you know, I fell in love with Rob there because everything we did, no matter, he didn't believe in, you know, us doing what we were doing, but every piece came out so fantastic. So then I got a job with the state, and, you know, sorry Rob, but I got hired on in the Republican caucus. So Rob took it upon himself to save me. And he tried to get me hired for the 3 years that I was working for them, and you know, bring me over to the good side. But, you know, I haven't spoken to Rob in like 3 or 4 months. So, Rob's passing has taught me an important lesson. Everybody here needs to call up a friend that they haven't talked to in a long time. And they need to take them out to lunch and tell them how much they really mean to them. Because Rob, God bless you, you saved me in many ways.
Is there anybody else that has anything to say? Don't feel obligated or anything. A couple things I wanted to mention, that there's still a ton of food, you guys, and I know it's cold out here, And, you know, this is kind of funny if you think about it. You know, it should be a nice sunny day and it's cold and we're all out here